ChroNoSo Monthly here on the North-South Connection Podcast Network. I am your host, Keith Langston. We are at episode number 39, and I am waking you all up. If I'm sure Tim Slonka needs to get woken up from that power and gory matchup that just took place, a couple of jobbers. I am joined here by the one and only Ryan Gray. Ryan, how are you today?
Keithy, I'm excited to be here on YouTube with you.
Excellent. Yes.
If you can see on the screen, it's probably not blocked out yet, but we're going to watch Bret the Hitman Hart versus Rick the Model Martel. Were you more of a model or a hitman in your youth?
In my youth, I was a big fan of the Hitman up until he started crying about wanting his belt back from Roddy Piper. And then there was a very long, lengthy period of time where I could not stand the man, even to the point that I would get into drunken rants and say that the wrong Hart died. Yeah. But thankfully, I had a meeting with Bret when his DVD came out years ago, and I had him sign, and there was a little incident where I was trying to take a picture, and the kid that I asked to take the picture couldn't take the picture because this is all before you had your own cell phones. And Bret was a really nice guy and continued to shake my hand for an exorbitant amount of time and allowed the kid to finally fuck around and figure out. So Bret earned my kudos that day, and ever since then I have become a true Hitman mark. I think he is, without a doubt, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
So was this at Boston University?
No, this was at where I met him and got the picture. It was actually at Cambridge Side Galleria at it would have been, it wouldn't have been Strawberries or whatever it was, whatever the FYE, whatever the record store was there.
Okay.
Yeah, and Bret was there signing. I mean, this is when his DVD came out. God,
so that's 06 when he went into the Hall of Fame about.
Yeah. So it was, so Bret still had brown hair, and I don't think he had his stroke yet. So he was still really with it. And then I make the joke is that when Sean retired, he was at the World of Wheels. Oh no, he was at the Bayside Expo Center at the boat show. And I have a picture of me shaking Bret's hand and a picture of me shaking Sean's hand. And I said, I was I was the Jimmy Carter. I brought the two of them together and negotiated the peace between the two of them. So I take full credit for that. Thank you.
Well, the world thanks you. Because if it was ROH, I met him at ROH at Boston University in 2009-ish.
That's amazing.
So I was just curious if it was the same show. We could put.
No, it wasn't that show. I would love to meet. I mean, it's funny because I feel like now he does the WWE WrestleCon stuff. So you have to pay the big bucks to see Bret. Whereas if he would just show up at a WrestleCon, I would wait for hours to hang out with Bret again.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, and then Rick the Model Martel. He's very newly the model here in 1990.
Yes, he is. Mm-hmm.
So I'm be interested to see the contrast here. I have not seen this match, Keithy, as I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
And before we hit go, hopefully it's not blocked on YouTube, so we'll be able to see it. But they had two interviews leading in. What were those interviews about? They
did. They had a couple of pre-match promos. Sean Mooney interviewed both of them, and Bret kind of was talking about. He mentioned how he was the excellence of execution, and of course, this is kind of I think the final MSG. Obviously, it's the final MSG show before WrestleMania 6. So they're on a full push to WrestleMania 6 because we are at March 19th, 1990, at Madison Square Garden, and so obviously, Sean Mooney mentions that the Hart Foundation is going to be facing the Bolsheviks at WrestleMania 6 in the Skydome. And Bret does make mention that not only is he a great tag team wrestler, but he's also a great singles wrestler. And I always kind of like when Bret would say he was a single, because he wouldn't say singles wrestler. He would say, I'm a single. And I like when he would say that. But and then I liked it at the end. He did threaten to wipe all the arrogance out of Rick Martel, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, kind of a little bit of a boilerplate promo from Bret, but not bad. I mean, you could tell that there's elements there. I always liked Bret. I always felt he could give a halfway decent promo up until 97, and then he's 10 out of 10 in 97.
Yeah, he was always a mid-card promo in his day.
Mm-hmm.
And when he really hit his stride at the end of his WWF run. And with the model have an interview as well? Do you have anything?
The model did. And this one is great because I feel like arrogance, and I'd have to go back and watch the weekly TVs, but I feel like arrogance is beginning to make its appearance heavily here. Like he comes in with the atomizer, spraying it, and and it's great because right off the bat, Mooney's like, Mr. Martel, can we please stop with the arrogance here? Thank you. And you understand, I am the wrestler of the 90s. I can the only one who can wear the arrogance, and I love it. And model, he claims that Bret is jealous of him. But it's what I thought was funny too is he says Bret's from the past, and I went, from the past? Like Bret's supposed to be the new generation, and he's from the past. Model saying he's from the past, but again, Model saying that he's like the wrestler of the 90s because he's the only one that can wear arrogance, and arrogance is the scent of the 90s. So there it is right there. So tough still listening to Rick Martel. I don't know. I never thought Rick was a great promo.
It's a good stick, though. He has a good shtick.
He does, and that's the thing. But it's still funny because you could tell that even a year into this now, he's still struggling a little bit to be like a total douchebag, which is what he's supposed to be. And that's just because he was a forever babyface. But, I'm always looking forward to see more of the Model. I wish he would get into the Hall of Fame, to be honest, because I would love to hear his Hall of Fame speech. So, yeah, but those were our promos, and Sean Mooney doing God's work there, interviewing those two gents. And we're off and running to we're going to hit it now, hit play. We're going to go ahead and check this out.
All right, we're going to hit play here, Keithy.
Yep. Bret the Hitman Hart versus the Model Rick Martel.
I love that, like, the font right there and the nicknames and everything. It really sets the tone. It's so great.
This is great, too, right off the bat, because Finkel goes to announce and they stop playing the Model's music, and he gets all, like, confused right here.
It's a great little theme. It's a Jim Johnson special. It fits him so well.
Absolutely.
Oh, we get the Goldberg rock.
Oh yeah. It's amazing with the sweater. I love the sweater, like straight from the 80s. The Model with the sweater wrapped around his neck and the arrogance bottle with the glasses, the sunglasses. This is pre-Purple Jacket,
Mm-hmm. Cocoa Beach, Florida. This is such a Pat Patterson fucking gimmick, isn't it?
Yeah. Cocoa Beach, Florida, by way of Montreal.
Yeah, right.
It's like
I think in the modern day he's a realtor.
I think so too. He still looks good, actually. I've seen pictures of him because he always pops up on the internet, just because people are always finding him and interviewing him and talking to him, and he still looks good. Like he, still looks good for a guy his age. I mean, he's an older guy, but yeah. I actually watched a hell of I don't know why my YouTube algorithm must have been, pulling something, because I saw this like great little 30-minute little piece on him on YouTube about his whole career, and yeah, kind of a tragedy almost how it ended with in WCW there for that.
With the Booker T match. That's right.
T match, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. You forget about that because that was not his WCW debut.
Well, he had been the TV champion, but he hadn't been there very long, and it was at, I think it was that, did I see it was at Starrcade, or it was either Starrcade or like Super Brawl or something like that. So it's at a pay-per-view. And I guess he
finishes it, right?
He finishes. Yeah, he bangs him out. He bangs up. I think he tears his ACL, I think, like mid-match. And there's a spot, I think, where like Booker T, I feel like Booker T like hip checks him or something, and he hits his leg on the bottom rope like really awkwardly. And I think he blows out his ACL, and he still finished the match and finished the match. Like he was doing stuff like he jumped off the top rope and stuff. So I mean, guy would have busted ACL, still kicking it big time. So
what a pro!
I know, big time.
By the way, when he's spraying his arrogance, Howard's fucking great. Spat away or whatnot. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It is amazing. I know that I know for the most part it was probably just missed, but I wonder if every once in a while they would sneak in something that would be like, as a rib, like maybe put in some like really foul smelling deodorant or something, like a foul smelling perfume. Like I hope so.
Andre or someone would play a rib on him in the back and put some pickle juice or some bullshit in there.
I was gonna say some deer piss. Hillbilly Jim's getting some deer piss from Mudlick. Yeah.
Oh, gross.
But, yeah.
All right.
Now I did want to mention real quickly that Bret Hart and Rick Martel, no stranger to each other.
Okay.
Not only had they fought each other a few times after like 1989, where a lot of times it was time limit draws. Bret kind of had this big thing in 89 where he was doing time limit draws with like Perfect and Rick Martel. A lot of his guys that he fought was going to like draws, which I think it was just they were giving Bret like 15-20 minutes to go out there and put on a show, which I watched the majority of this show. Yeah, I would have rather see Bret do a 20-minute draw than half of the friggin' matches that we had on this show. I mean, it was super machi. But they've don't forget, Strikeforce defeated the Hart Foundation for the tag belts, and then Savage teams with Strikeforce pretty much like through like the end of 87 and into 88 against the Hart Foundation and Honky. So there's a ton of 6-man tag matches and like cage matches and elimination matches and stuff. So big feud between Strikeforce and the Hart Foundation, and it was even better because they added Savage and Honky to that as well.
Yeah, now they're on the other side. Martel's the heel and Bret's the face. Back in 87, they were on the other sides of the fence. And
Bret actually defended the world title in 92 against Martel, I think overseas? Overseas, but it was like the winter tour. So it was overseas, but also like all through California. And he had like a good chunk of matches in like October, November, mostly like November of 92. He's wrestling Martel like almost exclusively, which is kind of cool. So Rick Martel getting a lot of like world heavyweight title matches against Bret, which was kind of neat.
That's pretty cool. It's probably like the dying age. So that's what, the winter?
Yeah, winter 92.
Yeah, very late in 92. So yeah, there's some stars, but I'm sure they're not working the house show. So I'm sure Rick was a reliable guy. And let's see what we got with them too as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
See how he draws, maybe use him down the road or something. So yeah,
I feel like Martel could have been a good IC guy. He could have won the Intercontinental title. I liked when when Razor wins that Intercontinental belt for that brief period before Razor starts feuding with Shawn, he's feuding with Martel. And Martel and him are doing the circuit, and it's actually like, I can imagine they're putting on great matches with each other. So, but I always like that. I always like that Raw was a taping, and the Battle Royal happened first, and then the matchup happened last. But when we were growing up, we thought it was like the week later, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So when would Martel be out of the WWE? He wasn't at WrestleMania 9.
No.
Was he in the Rumble 93? Because I know he would pop up on Raw in the summer and do the Battle Royal, like you said, and then he was in like the 95 Rumble randomly. So he was just like on call. What was his deal?
I think that he liked to take breaks. If I remember correctly, I think his wife got sick in 88. Okay. And I think that's why like they did that injury angle with him and Demolition and Tito, is because I think that he went out to take care of his wife, and then he was a big family man, so I think that like he would take breaks because things came up, or maybe he just wanted to spend time with his family and whatever and whatnot. But yeah, he's officially out by the end of 94 or by the beginning of 95, because I think you're right. I think he's in the Rumble in 95, and that's like his last appearance. But he's out by like the end of the summer, or even like the middle of the summer in 94. So he takes a break. He kind of goes, I think, to do, some other stuff. Like, it says he's in like the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance and then the International World Class, but those are all like just a couple of one-offs. I think he really kind of just maybe takes a break for a bit, and then he's back. He goes to WCW in 98, which is funny. Yeah. He's not even in WCW before then. He's in 98, which is like crazy. So, and that's when he's only in there for I think a month or a couple months, not very long,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I was always curious because he's totally forgotten about. He kind of falls off the map, really, especially from a pay-per-view standpoint.
Well, he's hot up until he loses to Jake in that blindfold match. And then once he loses to Jake, he's kind of like, nah, he has that weird feud with Shawn Michaels over Sensational Sherry, which is kind of odd. He's got like, I think 2 different feuds with Tatanka. Like, I think there's 2 different times he feuds with
WrestleMania 8 and then randomly again at the Survivor Series, right?
Yeah. And, but that was good because it kind of like, for people that remembered who he was back in the day, it was kind of nice seeing him like tangle with like Strongbow and, kind of like, because he was a big deal before the rock and roll or the rock and wrestling connection, so he was
partners with Gorilla. They held the tag titles forever, 81, 82-ish.
Yeah, so he was a big deal back then, so it's kind of nice to see him tangle with a couple of the older guys too when he was in that feud with Tatanka. But that's gotta suck being in a feud with Tatanka.
He stinks. Yeah. When is When is he the AWA champ? Like 83, 84, 85?
Yeah, I think he's 82, 83. I think he's 83.
Because he dropped it to Zbyszko. That's a whole nother pod. I know.
Yeah.
I don't know the AWA lineage that well. I'm sure Kid.
Please don't mention Hands of Z, whatever you do, because somewhere around Sean Kidd will hear, and whenever Zbyszko gets brought up, he hears, and then things happen.
His ears start tingling, his nipples get hard, his hands turn to stone, and he's ready to go.
And then we have to watch Ronnie Garvin and Larry Zbyszko matches. So,
wow, this is the second ChroNoSo in a row where Sean Kidd has caught some strays. Mark Poirier pretty much just told him to go fuck himself last episodes out of the blue, and now we're kind of shitting on him here. I was Zbyszko, and I like Garvin, so I enjoy the pod. But yeah,
no, it's actually I've come to the conclusion that Ronnie Garvin was just criminally misused in the WWF in 88, 89. And
was he though?
I mean, aside from those 2 or 3 matches with Greg Valentine, did he do anything else? He does have a couple of good bangers with Perfect, I will say that. Yeah. But it's just he's kind of almost to me, it blew my mind that like less than a year before that he was the world friggin' champion, and it's like, and then he comes in and he's essentially Tito Santana. You know,
is that on WWF or is that on WCW though?
that was NWA. I was
the NWA, yeah.
And I mean, and I think that a lot of that is they say because nobody else wanted a job to Flair a month after winning, so they were like, "Who's going to do it?" And he's like, give me a chance to be a champion, sure. So but other than that, I mean, the guy is a fucking badass. When we go back and we start watching some of these older matches, the guy's a badass. He's like a legit. Larry Zbyszko is a legitimate bore, always and forever.
So he's a before his time hardcore Holly. Just give me the belt, I'm a badass.
Yeah, basically, sure.
But a little more talented.
Yeah, and probably a lot more of a nice guy.
Yeah, we're gonna see. I want Kid's reaction on what he thinks of me comparing Ron Garvin to Hardcore Holly.
He might hit you with a hand of stone. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, but we'll see. But we got. I mean, this is a hell of a match here. By the way, I mean we're watching it, but we're not even really talking about it. But that's okay because hopefully everybody else is watching it along with us and enjoying.
Hopefully it's not blocked. Martel has fucking. What I've caught my eye is he throws a great right hand. He really does.
Yeah, and I also love too is that he sells great, which. Bret sold, but Brett's not a bumpy seller like a Perfect. Like he's not bumping all over the place, but Martel kind of is.
Yes, especially as a heel.
Yeah, and I like that about Martel. I do. I like that he kind of bumped all over the place. It took him a while because I remember like watching the first few matches of him when he turns. He's still doing like the acrobatic shit and stuff, which it did fit with his character.
Yeah,
it did fit with his character, but it was still like just almost a little too babyface for me, but I love these two guys mixing it up together. I mean, Bret again. 89 Bret is such an enigma because it's just he's friggin' good in almost everything he's doing, and then they kind of just resaddle him with Neidhart and
for another 2 years.
Yeah, and it's like I don't, and not that I didn't enjoy the Hart Foundation's run in 90 and 91. It's just 90 really, 91. It's not really, but I do enjoy it in 90. But it's just. They could have done something else. Like they could have replaced them with the Rockers and just had the Rockers.
It's funny because the Rockers have a bad year in 90. I wonder if they take their spot in 90.
Yeah.
Because Bret's single spot is taken probably by is it taken by Tornado? Who's it taken by, you think?
I think it is. Well, it's weird because I really think Beefcake was gonna beat Perfect at SummerSlam. I really do.
And
I think that because he got hurt, they had to switch around, but they had already by that point taken the Hart Foundation out. Yeah, because I think doesn't Sean get hurt at SummerSlam? I think Sean's hurt.
Yeah, that's where the powers of glory kill him.
But they could have easily had, if Sean didn't get hurt or if there wasn't anything going on and they wanted to stick with like Bret being the solo guy, they could have had the Rockers beat Demolition. Or have the Hart Foundation beat them, or have the Legion of Doom beat him. I don't know if they wanted to let Legion of Doom do it that quick, but there could have been a ton of different things that they could have done. So,
yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Martel, the character, right? Who do you think comes up with the model? Is it Rick? Is it the Office? Who is it? Do you think they come up with it for Rick, or do you think they come up with the model and think of Rick?
Yeah. I think that. It's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to think more about that. But I think that
I wonder if anyone knows. Martel does a lot of shoot interviews, kind of in a way, low key. I wonder if that comes up.
it has to. It has to. Because I would say that
it's an interesting question for sure.
Yeah, but it's a good character. It's a great character. It's something that needs to come back. I feel like, they've kind of done it with. It's funny they did it with like Alberto Del Rio, kind of weird,
like the aristocrat kind of guy.
Aristocrat works for him.
You know who they did it with in like 06 was Sylvain Grenier.
Oh yeah. Oh God, and remember who was the guy? Rob Conway. Just look at me.
They packaged all of La Resistance with the models. Rene Dupree in 04 with like Fifi. Oh my God. They really did try the model gimmick on all of La Resistance.
Seriously, anytime there's a guy with a French Canadian accent, Vince just goes nuts.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oui.
Well, his mannerisms there is fantastic. I could see that little poodle that Dupree would carry around with model all day, every day.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Just look at me. Remember that awful Rob Conway music? Oh God.
Yeah, but it kind of ruled also.
It did. But it was so bad though. But I'm trying to think who they could do that now. I feel like, oh my God, they tried that with LA Knight. Remember when he was Max Dupree or whatever? Wasn't that his name?
Mason Mansour.
Yeah, they were trying that. Like they always that was Vince. I mean, but like they love that modelish gimmick where it's like, I don't know. I feel like
Martel does it the best though.
Oh, he's the best. He's the best model by far. I mean,
wow, that's really funny. All La Resistance. They tried it with LA Knight. They tried it with the Maximum Male models.
Yep.
Holy shit, that's fucking awesome.
They got him now. Yeah, who's that new team with the two guys that like they dress? They're on SmackDown. They're like that tag team where they kind of dress.
Oh, pretty deadly.
Yeah, pretty deadly. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of again. This just goes back to like Gorgeous George
model right there. I love it.
There he is. Yeah. But this goes back to like Gorgeous George just being, like kind of like that pompous douchebag that comes in and, different than Superstar Billy Graham, different than Buddy Rogers and Flair. Like, it's different, and that's where it is. Like this, like he's not, you're never going to hear Martel talk about his $1,000 watch, $10,000 watches and his $20,000 shoes. Like, you're never going to say, like, that was a Flair thing. That was a Buddy Rogers thing. You could see that. But this is something totally different. It's just, I have all the looks and all the class to be this guy.
Yeah, because it's within him. He doesn't need to put it on him to become it. He's already has the arrogance. Right. That's kind of the deal with him.
And the arrogance, oh God, when he sprays Jake, that's coming up and within probably 6
later
months
this year.
Yeah. That was a good shot in the arm too for Jake because what was he with Bad News before that? I mean, God, Jake had been feuding with DiBiase for like a year and a half, and then they finally switch him on a Bad News, and Bad News like doesn't want a job, so that's a terrible feud. Like poor Jake, that son of a bitch got so many bad feuds. Bing, 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 bing. And the feud with DiBiase is not terrible, but the feud with Martel is awesome because he's got all those months where he's blind. And
eyeball,
and then the Survivor Series match and all that. Like, that's great. And then even like the blindfold match is so much fun at Mania. And it's such a terrible match, but it's so good.
Yeah, it's cool. Oh, there we go. Abdominal stretch by Martel. Looking fantastic as always.
Oh, yeah.
See, Bret's really good at like agonizing, right? He's good with the facials, locked in a hole, taking a beating, but bumping around. Like you said earlier, it would probably pick Martel to do that, but selling visually.
Well, Bret does that the corner bump.
Oh, that's great.
That's the best bump in the business, I think, is the corner bump. Where he hits those turnbuckles like at 70 miles.
But your everyday flat back bump, Bret's just goes through the motion and then sells it like death within his face.
Yeah. And then, I mean, and the funny thing is, because again, I go down these rabbit holes all the time of like, especially with the Christmas play that was on Place to Be, we had, that of course everybody makes fun of Bruce, and you find out that Bruce was the one that suggested that he turn on Bret at Survivor Series.
Owen,
like, we'll stick with somebody else. How about Owen? And then, so I go down these rabbit holes, and you start looking, and you're like, Jesus, out of all the other guys, like Owen really was like, if Bret's one, Owen's 1A. Like, it really is like that. Like, Owen was just as friggin' good as Bret. you know?
Mm-hmm. I guess.
Why, you don't think so?
I think he's fought. I think Owen's good. Don't get me wrong. I think he deserves to be a top 100 WWF guy of all time, of course, WWE guy of all time, for sure. But I think that he's a little overrated in a way. What's his best match?
It's with Bret at 10.
What's Bret's best match?
Not with Owen.
What's Bret's 5 best opponents? Where does Owen fall?
Oh God.
Perfect. Yeah. Austin.
I think Perfect, Austin. Probably
you could say Shawn, but even though Owen has better matches than Shawn, but
yeah,
I'd rather watch Shawn with Bret.
Yeah. It had a more natural animosity feel, even though
and this is when the roster's down too as well.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you can't pick Backlund, but there's a reason why they didn't go. They went Backlund so much instead of Owen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, his matches, he had a couple of good matches with Lawler, but not really enough to.
Yeah, but that's more character stuff where they're gonna play into Jerry, not.
You know what I think? You know what actually is surprisingly a really great match is his match against Doink at that SummerSlam.
Oh, 93, yeah.
That's a fucking great match. It really is.
Matt Bourne at that
is
weight?
that's still Matt Bourne, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's still full on heel.
No,
Bourne does do face Doink for only a month or so, and then he leaves.
Interesting. And then it goes Ray Apollo or whoever.
Yeah. So
Martel's eaten this whole match pretty much. It's been all of him with a few flurries from Bret.
Oh, sure. Oh, big knees by Bret.
Oh, yeah.
Right into the bread basket, Gorilla.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you have the
cartoonish? What?
Do you have any interest to know what else was on this card?
I know we have the Warrior and Perfect for the IC coming up next. What else comes up in here? There's a famous Hercules match, right?
No, there is not. It was a joke. I had said that to you earlier where Hercules fights Black Bart. And they go 12 minutes, and it's 12 excruciating minutes, I might add.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Jim Powers defeats Iron Mike Sharp at 13 minutes. That's what I'm saying, where it's listen to these friggin' times, okay?
That would have been bad in 1985. I can only imagine 5 years later.
Jim Powers, 13 minutes against Iron Mike Sharp. Hercules defeats Black Bart at 12 minutes and 6 seconds.
And this is in order, Keithy?
This is in order, yes.
Oh, my God, that's brutal.
You get the Orient Express, which is not the good one. It's Sato and Tanaka. Defeat Demolition by countout. So the soon-to-be three-peating champions with the second biggest pop at the friggin' Skydome loses by countout to the friggin' Orient Express. The Borient Express, excuse me. Then you have Coco Beware defeating Frenchie Martin. Frenchie Martin, where the hell has Frenchie Martin been for 2 years? At 12:40, 12
How
minutes.
fat was Frenchie Martin doing 12 minutes in 40 seconds?
Excruciating. He looks like, first of all, Pete and I have joked around that Frenchie Martin looks like Weekend at Bernie, because he looks like Terry Kaiser. He looks like Bernie wrestling Coco Beware in this match. It's awful. But then you have a good little bit of a shot in the arm. You have Earthquake beating Jim Duggan. So it's always good to see the Canadian Earthquake. You have this matchup, which I will. I'm not going to spoil, but I will spoil. It goes 20 minutes.
All right, we're halfway there.
We're halfway. Then you got probably the biggest match of the night. You got Dino Bravo defeating Brutus Beefcake by countout.
Great urgency from Bret here, by the way. Well,
at 11:27, 11 minutes. Listen to this. The only match that hasn't gone over 10 is that Earthquake match. And I think Earthquake and Jim Duggan could have gone over 10 minutes. Then you have Tugboat Thomas, still being dubbed Tugboat Thomas, defeating Pez Watley. So Shasta Watley at 5:51.
Pistol Pez?
And then I'm not going to give away since it's the next matchup.
On the ChroNoSo,
I'll say
Jeremy's doing that one, so leave it for Jeremy.
Yeah, the main event of the evening is Perfect against Warrior for the Intercontinental Championship.
So literally 2-match card. That's it.
Maybe one match. 2 because this is a good match, but
Yeah, this is actually really good.
Really only 1 because it's just what a match. But I mean, you did get
That's an attraction, though.
You got Demolition, which is they were a big deal. You got Beefcake. Beefcake was a big deal at this point,
No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, great drop kick, great sell.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that was fantastic.
Uh-oh. We know what he's not going for, because I don't think he's learned this yet. So this is just gonna be the stomp.
Stomp right to the abdominal.
Stomp to the dick. Boston Crab. That's amazing.
Why would he that's his finishing move, obviously. He should have stole it as where was he, the Pebble Beach Crab?
He could have done that.
He's not even from Boston. Why is he trying to steal our glory, Keithy?
I don't know. Well, that's like when Jericho used to do the walls he used to do the Lion Tamer, and the Lion Tamer was always different. It was always like a high up kind of like, and he would put the knee in the guy's back. And then when they brought him in, and the first time Jericho does the walls, it's the Lion Tamer. And then every time after that, it was just a Boston Crab. And I went, yeah, that's just a Boston Crab.
Instead of throwing his knee into his back of his neck. Yeah.
I think after like the first match he has in WWF, I think Jericho only does it like one other time. I forget who it's against. I saw it once and I forget who it was, and I went, "Oh my god, he's pulling out like a Lion Tamer," which was great.
It's not a bad pullout when it's called for a big match, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we got a time limit draw here.
All right, that went by pretty quick. They moved frantically.
Yep.
Martel owned probably 70% of the match. Bret would have his flurries. Bret had the heat at the end, trying to regain it.
Yep.
And then they ran out of time. So they protected both guys, and they went out there and had a pretty good match. I go like 3 1/4.
I absolutely 3 1/4, 3.5 even. I would even say. I mean, again, for a time limit draw for two guys, mid card guys, they're going at it. I mean, there's even some after the match shenanigans afoot right here. Yeah, but this is great. Bret with the big clothesline knocks him out to end the night, to end the encounter, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah, but even early in the model's run here, he had all the mannerisms down.
Mm-hmm.
He fine-tooths a little bit more, but he's there. He's ready to rock and roll as this character.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And this is basically who he is for the rest of his career,
For sure.
Yeah.
And then we got to find out who came up with it. Was the model made in a factory and then they fit Rick Martel into it, or was the model made because of Rick Martel?
I think that is a good question. Well, the answer is Pat Patterson. This is, like you said, it's a Pat Patterson invention altogether. But it is one of those things where I feel like it might have been, we got this character. Well, again, that's like that debate of like, who was going to be Mr. Perfect, Hennig or Taylor? And it's like, the more I think about it, that's the more obnoxious that is. There's no way that anybody was going to take Terry Taylor as Mr. Perfect. So
is it like a box of gimmicks things or not? So interesting. Maybe someone will leave it in the comments when they know, or we'll reach it and let us know on the next time. But Keithy, this was fun to jump on with you. Yes. And watch a pretty good match. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, and stay tuned for the rest of ChroNoSo. Like Ryan was saying earlier, we got a great matchup coming up next. Jeremy's going to tell us all about the Perfect versus main event of this night. Yep, on this night, and then I think we close it out with something else. Yeah, I'm back again with our friend Katie. So she's rocking and rolling with us all episode, but we're at the end of it, Keithy. So let's get on out of here. And YouTube, check out the rest of the episode. Thank you, guys. Thanks.